An outbreak and pandemic caused by any infectious disease is bound to be the focus of public attention because of the fear and feeling of helplessness and also the lack of information. Many people would naturally link an area's outbreak to its nearest lab. As they learn more about the situation and the lab, rumours will gradually dissipate.
But the science is not certain. More and more evidence is emerging that challenges this wet market narrative and points to possible connection to the laboratory. Shi Zhengli said when she first learnt of a coronavirus outbreak in late December, she suffered sleepless nights, fearing it may have come from her lab. Just a day before China alerted the World Health Organization there was a new pneumonia-like coronavirus, an apparent cover-up of both Wuhan labs began. Archived pages of the Wuhan Institute of Virology's database show it was altered on the eve of December 30 to delete any mention of wild animals or arthropods. Over at the second virology lab, the Wuhan Center for Disease Control, the search term of bats was censored on their sites. Sky News understands intelligence agencies are now taking a closer look at what was going on at this laboratory, which dealt with the very early samples of the virus. Washington, D.C., January 2018. Officials from the US State Department receive a high-priority cable from embassy staff in Beijing. It raises serious concerns about a laboratory in central China, Wuhan's Institute of Virology. The diplomats claim the lab had lax security and a severe shortage of appropriately trained technicians.
I would note that in respect of that cable, the Chinese were asking the United States for some assistance. That cable not only reported Chinese concern about its own security arrangements inside its level 4 facilities, it was also asking and seeking some assistance.
Some of their experiments involve genetically altering viruses to make them more dangerous. Shi Zhengli is one of their most senior scientists and a director at one of their labs. She's known as the Batwoman for her extensive experience working with the animals. She acknowledged the incredible risk of her work in a study she co-authored with the University of North Carolina in 2015. It stated,
"The potential to prepare for and mitigate future outbreaks must be weighed against the risk of creating more dangerous pathogens."
But her research got even riskier. Sky News can reveal, just 10 days before the first case of COVID-19, the Chinese government gave Shi Zhengli's laboratory permission to engage in experimental activities with even more dangerous pathogens. This is confirmed in a statement from the director of the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Wuhan National Biosafety Level 3 laboratory was officially qualified for experimental activities and has the ability and conditions to carry out experimental activities of highly pathogenic microorganisms.
Shi's Level 3 lab is where most of the coronavirus research is actually carried out. So Shi was conducting higher risk research in a lab with lower security. The scientific view to date has been that COVID-19 did not come from this lab. But a growing number of scientists are coming forward, claiming that we can't rule this out.
We really don't know where this virus has come from. I mean, that's the truth. The two possibilities, which I think are both still open, are firstly that it was a chance transmission of a virus from an as yet unidentified animal to humans. The other possibility, of course, is that it was an accidental release of the virus from a laboratory.
US researchers suggest the virus may not have come from a Wuhan wet market. This study from Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, awaiting peer review, states,
"Importantly, the market samples are genetically identical to human SARS-CoV-2 isolates and were therefore most likely from human sources."
And a paper written by Chinese researchers and published in the prestigious medical journal The Lancet claimed the earliest known COVID-19 case had no link to the wet market. They claim 13 people of the first group hospitalised also had no link to the wet market. Experts at Flinders University and La Trobe say 2 coronaviruses could have combined to create COVID-19 in a lab.
One of the possibilities is that an animal host was infected by 2 coronaviruses at the same time, and COVID-19 is the progeny of that interaction between the 2 viruses. The same process can happen in a petri dish. In other words, COVID-19 could have been created from that recombination event in an animal host, or it could have occurred in a cell culture, experiment.
The full explanation of this is highly technical, but there are 2 key points. First, the virus binds more strongly to human cells than animals, including bats. Second, it is something its genetically closest virus in bats doesn't have, a technical term, what's known as a furin cleavage site, and that makes it significantly more infectious. Professor David Winkler says this all means that you can't rule out a lab as the source. There's now growing evidence to show that both laboratories in Wuhan did not have the best safety practices. According to their own protocols, researchers are meant to wear full protective gear when handling animals. But these photographs show their protocols were not followed. They've since been removed from the Wuhan Institute of Virology's website. Safety was just as bad at the nearby Wuhan Center for Disease Control, where senior scientist Tian Junha admitted in a video post in December just how easy it is for contamination to happen.
Who boasted in the press about how he'd been peed on and scratched and blood had gone on him and all of this, and that he had to self-isolate at least twice as a result, but that he regarded his work as so important he was going to carry on anyway. And on one occasion he said he even forgot to take his protective clothing.
Both laboratories are now under the microscope of intelligence agencies.
From virtually the start, what the party did is it moved in, took complete control, and actually obliterated various bits of the crucial evidence. It interfered with the scene of the crime, so to speak, and that's going to make any independent inquiry, even if it's commissioned, it's going to make it difficult for it to do its work properly.